Is it time we start thinking about Fire Emblem 17? It's been over a year since Fire Emblem Three Houses was released, and of course you remember the very first trailer for the game on June 12th, 2018. Fire Emblem's last new game trailer was Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. Gaiden, bro. Which debuted in March 2017. The dates being relatively close to one another, and the time passed since Three Houses released is getting me more and more curious. Should we start expecting something about the next Fire Emblem game now? Personally, yeah, kinda. Everything in this video is straight up a guess. So if I say anything now, and like a month later something happens, I'm not going to say I called it, or I can predict the future or anything. Your guess is as good as mine. But anyway, here's some random bullshit I thought of. So there's basically three things that ring in my head whenever I think of the next Fire Emblem Switch title, because RIP 3DS. Possibility 1 should be no surprise, a remake. There's been a few remakes already in Fire Emblem. In case you are new to this channel and may not be familiar with Fire Emblem's past games, let's wind the turn wheel back a few years. Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, aka FE3, aka one of the best Fire Emblem titles of all time, aka watch my video right here, is a remake of Fire Emblem 1 in the Super Nintendo engine, as well as its own game with FE3 Book 2. Fire Emblem 1 then got remade again as Shadow Dragon for the DS, and later FE12 was a remake of FE3's Book 2. The last remake was of course Shadows of Valentia, taking Fire Emblem Gaiden, which is FE2. There are several big wish lists for what a new remake could look like. Genealogy of the Holy War is Fire Emblem 4th, and it was huge in Japan. With the birth of emulation and fanslations, FE4's popularity crossed the globe, and it's often held in high regard for its impressive world building and storytelling. And while I'm not built for the kind of divisive chapter design and gameplay, there's a lot of people who really do like it. And of course, Fire Emblem Heroes probably made FE4's characters even more popular. I honestly didn't know there were so many Zelda fans outside of Japan, but I guess there are. The reasons I can see FE4 being remade is that battalions could fit right in with the sheer scale of FE4's maps and stakes. You're taking on entire countries in FE4's chapters. FE4 using FE3H's engine seems like a match made in heaven. That game could also use some deeper characterization, as supports weren't a thing yet, but they did have a lot of talk conversations at least. And if we're talking about time skips, I mean, there literally is one. So we're not gonna be super surprised if that happens. Thracia 776 was Fire Emblem's worst selling game, selling at 159,000 copies. But I think its lack in sales had less to do with people hating the game or Fire Emblem, but more with marketing and bad timing? I don't know. Didn't it like release really soon before the Super Nintendo got like stopped produced or something? Like it came out really late? I don't know, someone could correct me on that. My point is that with the remake of Gaiden, the second worst selling Japan-only title, not counting FE12, came out of absolutely nowhere. So it's not like we can really say FE5 will never have a remake because the original one bombed and get away with it at this point. Besides that, I just don't really see FE5 being a high priority remake of a game just yet. So far, FE1 through 3 has been remade, but going chronologically might not be the best approach either, because there's a bunch of hype about Elibe remakes. Theories of a Shadows of Elibe, or a Super Elibe title with both FE6 and FE7, with the time skip and everything. I'm not entirely confident in an Elibe remake either. I think it's not really been long enough, and the game has sold like a million bajillion copies anyway. It's like the third, fourth most selling game ever. Probably would make an amazing remake, don't get me wrong, but I'm more inclined to believe something less far-fetched, like Path of Radiance getting the remake first. Path of Radiance has Ike, and Ike is massively popular. In fact, he's the most popular character in the series ever, despite his game selling not that great. And again, it's not like sales figure of the original title really means anything. I just think that if Intelligent Systems and I want to make the most money possible, I have two choices. Remaking FE7, the best-selling non-3DS/Switch title, or remaking FE9, the game with Ike, the Smash Bros. Character in it. Don't think I forgot about Sacred Stones though. While I'd love to see a remake of Garrick in HD, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. I'd love to be surprised though. I'm not even sure how a remake at this point would even look like. If it's going to be on the Switch, will it not have all the bells and whistles of Three Houses? FE7 didn't have a skill system, so would a remake strip Three Houses mechanics down? FE9 had skills, but it didn't have personal skills, only class skills. And what about battalions? Echoes introduced combat arts, which have stuck around in Three Houses. Will the next remake have its own unique mechanic that will stick around in the future? Imagine all the theory crafting I could do, guessing what kind of personal skills Hector or Lyn would have. My second guess is just a spin-off of Three Houses, like Fire Emblem Warriors 2, or Three Houses Warriors, as a prequel or a midquel to Three Houses. There have been a bunch of conflicts leading up to present-day Fodlan, like the Insurrection of the Seven, the Tragedy of Duscur, the Dagda-Brigid War, the War of Heroes, which is pretty huge, and there's also a bunch of conflicts going on in Fodlan during the present day. Almyra and Sreng's aggression against Fodlan. There's probably some bullshit going on in Brigid or something, too. As well as side characters that are important but aren't really part of the main conflict, like Hilda's brother, Holst, and you have Nardell and Judith. Now, I 100% believe that their stories are done, and Holst will forever remain a faceless character who is name-dropped one too many times. But I'm saying, you have the material to create a Warriors game here. Another Fire Emblem Warriors title has been spinning around in people's minds ever since Age of Calamity dropped. So I mean, yeah, a shot in the dark maybe? Or maybe they won't even talk about Three Houses, and maybe we'll get a Warriors spin-off based in Askr and Fire Emblem Heroes. That would be pretty sick. You have the perfect excuse to create the Warriors game that everyone wanted. You have the base Warriors game right there to work with, so I say, just do that, you know? That'd be awesome. Lastly, and definitely not happening for like another 3 years probably, I don't know, a new title with a new universe and everything. But you know what? We are here anyway. So what would be my dream Fire Emblem game? My 1.0 version of my perfect Fire Emblem game, which is subject to change, which I thought of half-assed, and I wanted to talk about them because I get this question a lot, and I feel like I can just refer to these points that I think you might agree with. So here, in no particular order, nor particular set of priority, my 1.0 version of my perfect Fire Emblem game that isn't my ROM hack. So, here we go. First off, whether it's a remake or a new title, optimize the game better, please. Cut down on the loading screens, and holy shit, try harder on the graphics. I never took much issue with graphics in Three Houses. I always go back to Awakening's graphics versus Echoes graphics all being on the 3DS, and the all-around production value is night and day, save for the cutscenes. Like, Awakening is the oldest game of the three 3DS games, and somehow it has the best cutscenes, like, arguably in the entire series as a whole. Like, dude, enough with these 15 FPS cutscenes, man. It's gonna be like 2023 by the time this game comes out. There's no excuse for this. None. I'm very hopeful that the next Switch Fire Emblem game will do way better on the graphics and all-around performance. Better animations, models, textures, load times, and less in-game lag too when you're dealing with lots of stuff going on in the screen with lots of units, and maybe there's rain happening and stuff and you're zoomed out, that kind of thing. The UI could be improved as well. I didn't like how the class progression bar seemed to only be viewable on the class promotion screen and not right under the EXP bar on page 1 of the character menu. Also, support bonuses should easily be visible on the battle forecast, as in what they actually boost, or the boosts should be somewhere in the UI somewhere. As far as I know, they're only viewable in the actual support menu in the monastery / quote-unquote base menu, right? If character A gives character B +5 hit and avoid, can you just tell me that somewhere in the UI or in a map or something? Like, can you just show me where that is so I can do some cool pro strats with it or something? I've never really had to consider that in the game because honestly, I just looked at like the Link battle or the plus and how everyone was teaming up together, and I just kind of used the numbers that it showed me. But I think it'd be really, really helpful if I could just see who exactly gives what based on who's deployed on the map. That would be sick. I'm sure a bunch of viewers have way better suggestions for a better UI, so I'll leave that to you guys in the comments. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have a lot of issues with the UI. A lot of people have problems with like the circle menu thing at the front, like aesthetics, like what is it, fashion over function type deal. You guys can let me know how that works. Fully voiced supports and story, obviously. No character has an inexplicable 2-support long chain. Looking at you, Ash and Dimitri. If you're time skipping, give every character a new design. Looking at you, boomers of Three Houses. If you're having a child mechanic, time skip this stuff by 15 or 20 years instead of baby realms. Three Houses was great for this for the 5-year skip, but if you want to go bigger and bolder, then just make the skip longer and age up everyone, I guess. Limit of 3 turn wheel uses per map, or difficulty option of no turn wheel mechanic at all, because even in maddening, the lack of incentive to actually not take stupid risks or stupid decisions is really low. Like, the more turn wheel uses I have, the less seriously I take the map, and no matter how difficult you want to make your map, it can always fall on my 10 go back in time things. Also, I think this would also help with map design as well. If you're relying on really cheap tactics, especially in maddening mode or more difficult modes, and you're depending on the player to use turn wheel to go back, then it doesn't really do a service to your gameplay at all, because you're just saying, deal with my BS 5 more times until you get it. I would like a casual mode to return. No ambush spawns to be seen whatsoever. And if you do want to do ambush spawns, watch my video on FE3, and that's how you can do it properly. Return of a monastery/hub center, but a way to fast track to the characters specifically. Better activities and less time wasting fetch quests. Maybe something like Radiant Dawn's bases. Like, take FE10's base mechanic and do more of that in your hub. I don't know, I hack Fire Emblem 7. Or, other idea, maybe instead of a monastery that's pre-built for you to explore in, you bring my castle back from Fates and you build your own base, and you can either move around quickly like in My Castle 3DS, or run around and stuff like in Three Houses. So you literally build your own base that you can explore in, and that would be cool. Spell lists can stay, but please have more spells. Increase the uses of stronger spells to something not crippling like a 2-use bolting or whatever, come on. Let me rename my weapons and their colors like in FE9. Give me Fates' class system. If you're doing class mastery skills, please make them worth it. Defiant skills are scientifically proven to suck most of the time. My source is heroes. I'd be cool with unique combat arts from weapons making a return. Dungeon exploration from Guidance/Echoes would be cool to see again. Thebes was unreal content. To be honest, I wouldn't mind special armories and vendor shops returning on map that are distinguished from the usual weapons and items you can buy from armories and vendors at the base, and visitable villages with good loot. FE4 and FE5 and FE3 did this really well. It's one of the easiest ways to increase the pacing of a chapter and raise the stakes. Personal skills obviously, but maybe make personal combat arts a thing too? Don't shoot me for saying this, but Fates capturing was more fun than Thracia capture, and I think that should make a return, because capturing enemies, especially bosses, was sick. Growth modifier held items like scrolls or orbs. Varied chapter goals and maps like FE5, 10, and Fates. Demonic beasts were sick, so keep that. Breakable weapons or not, I really don't care. Three Houses can bring adjutants back over pair up. I'd be okay with a weapon triangle return. You can grind every so often, and here's a big one, my unit. So if you had a gun to my head and said, this game needs to have an avatar, I would do this. Straight up, you are Sothis. You are God, but you don't have a presence, and you can help and advise the main lord or their friends as if you were FE7 Mark. You can customize your look and voice and legit everything. And maybe, I don't know, on a second playthrough, or when you've unlocked all the story stuff, your next playthrough or a new game plus, you can manifest yourself as a playable character. And congratulations, you are now human God, and you can marry one of your underlings. Otherwise, no avatar. And I know someone's gonna bring this up in the comments, which is fine, but I'm not really keen on having a Chris avatar either. I get the appeal of having a mercenary type guy who's close to the main lord, but honestly, I'd rather just have the story characters do their own thing. The thing for the most part about a lot of these characters in Fire Emblem is that they all have pre-established relationships, and I have a problem with like being a new character that has amnesia or some bullshit coming in and kind of like taking the spotlight away from potential character growth that they would have had. So honestly, make me God. Seriously, just make, I'll take being God any day of the week. Anyway, I have more on map design specific changes I'd like to see that I only scratched the surface above. Like the armories and vendors and villages thing is a really small piece in this big map design mind that I have. But I don't want to go on a huge rant about map design right now. Anyway, I'm sure you have your own perfect Fire Emblem game in your head that you think would be the best idea ever, so by all means, strut your stuff in the comments. So basically, there are 3 possibilities here: a remake, a spin-off, or a new title. Which one seems the most likely to happen to you? And what's your dream Fire Emblem game? Thanks for watching. Deuces.